Mrs. DeWitt.
The following are my opinions based on facts as I understand them. In the November 5th Observer, Councilman Johnson was quoted as saying about Councilman Reeves, "You've had a target on your back for 6 years." The target on Reeves' back was placed there by himself, with his own comments, his own ignoring of city ordinances, Open Meetings Act, policies and procedures, state law, and/or First Amendment rights, as the other 3 former incumbents also did. Johnson called a citizen a liar, called for a citizen to be sued about nothing suable. Last council, Councilman Hammonds said, speaking to Reeves, "Nobody deserves the things that were said about you, the things that were slung at you, the slander that went on. Nobody deserves that." Councilman Godbout called citizens slanderers, said that certain citizens are against the police and fire. Last council, Reeves stated, "The stuff on Facebook, the Watchdog, and Concerned Citizens websites was used by people that are shameless and faceless." Said there's been ethnic slurs and there's been poor comments made with a lot of negative stuff. At an earlier council, he called a citizen a bigot, biased, prejudicial, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of what these 4 have said about citizens. If citizens did in fact say and do these terrible things they are charged with by council, it is disgusting and dangerous. Our feet should be held to the fire. But if untrue, it is just a lot of their bogus rhetoric, it is far, far more dangerous, and their feet will be held to a greater fire. So I insist the 4 of you councilmen name those who said these horrible lies and slanderous statements, when and where it was said or written, and exactly what was said or written. No general statements, be specific. Quotes, please. Anything less is worthless. Remember, the facts or truth are neither a lie or slanderous. Let us clear this matter up once and for all. No honest person would object to that, would probably welcome it. I know I do. Nothing is being asked from any of you that we didn't do ourselves when we made our statements. See you next council. Looking forward to it. Did you get all that, Leanne?
First of all, I want to remind everybody that my friend Bill Richmond is selling his trees again. It's at the old In-N-Out store, and his are his trees that he grows, and they're fresh. So if you're buying a real tree, please go by and check it out. He's been there for years, off and on. I didn't get an answer to my question about the memorials. Maybe in the future you can answer it. Okay, Westland Watchdogs. I'm on that site. Bill Campbell started it. He's never denied it. Nobody that's ever been on it has denied what they have to say, and there was never any racial or ethnic slurs on it. I don't know where people are getting this. In fact, I found more offense with the Keep Westland Moving Forward and some of their postings. And when it comes to moving forward, it's great to move forward, but you got to remember the past. I'm so tired of got to get rid of this, got to get rid of that. That was part of history. If you don't learn from history, shame on you. And that's why you should go forward, but you also should go backwards and remember the past. And the other thing is the Veterans Memorial. And the same with when we had the garden. I don't understand why these people feel they have to destroy things, whether they're children or adults or just mean people. You're not helping things. You're just destroying memories, and you're sick. That's it.
So welcome, Susan.
Richard will certainly appreciate you by about the 15th minute you're on the job with him, because he's going to have his hands full. And I'd just like to say this about the elections. That there were a lot of nays and yays and here and there. I think the residents did say in a rather loud voice, incumbents, yay, newbies, nay. Thank you.
Councilwoman Cicerelli Bryant.
Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, Mr. Witt ran out of here. The concerned citizens on their website, they made reference to Detroit and thugs. And then on the watchdogs, Mr. Kevin Miller made comments towards Mr. Bling Bling. Okay, those are ethnic slurs. So those are on those websites. You can check it out for yourself. Next, let me say to Mr. Hart, great job. Your philanthropy is magnificent. Keep up the good work. You do well. Mr. Warren, I agree with your comments. I love the city I live in too, and it's been a pleasure to sit here and serve. To Hank Johnson and the Dem Club and all its members, thank you so much for the acknowledgement. I really do appreciate that. Consensus is developed when trust and understanding come together. It has to happen as one. They're not separate incidents, they're one incident. Building consensus is when an individual has the ability to compromise with his co-council members or whatever your environment or whatever your situation is, and understands that sometimes you got to get out of your own way in order to get to the best objective. That's something you can learn, but it's not innate. But in order to have that, honesty is paramount. I want to talk about a study session that we had. It took place about 2 months ago. And Mr. Kerr brought forth a suggestion that the council come forth and finance the balance of the memorial. And he had a figure of $50,000. Mr. Coleman, you had a figure of $30,000, or 30 plus thousand. And Mr. Johnson had a figure of $23,000, of which the Local 900 wrote a check for 10. And so his understanding was there was a $13,000 balance left. I made a comment during that study session, and I said, you know what? I'm not supporting anything when we have 3 different figures. And what's more interesting than that, all the figures had to come from the same source. So as a council person, it is our fiduciary responsibility to question inadequacies like that when you've got 50, 30, 20. So I did that. And I made a comment. I said, I'm not supporting this, and I have some idea what happened to the money. During the next council meeting, you, Mr. Coleman, said, we have to have transparency, and I want to know, Mr. Reeves, what did you mean by your comments? Well, I was doing my job. My job is to question discrepancies. Now, with that being said, I met with Mr. Hart also, with Mr. Johnson, Mr. Williams, I'm sorry, with Mr. Williams, Mr. Johnson, and Mr. Dwayne Walker. They audited that account. At that time, sir, there were no cash deposits. None. Not one. Not only that, there were no bills that were paid with cash. Out of all the fundraising events that took place, if you sat here and made a comment, I guarantee you all that money is going to go towards this memorial. Where's the money?
Councilman Hammonds.
Thank you, Council President. I too want to thank the JCs